Have you ever noticed how quiet the world can feel when you truly listen? Not the kind of listening that waits for a chance to speak back, but the kind that simply rests in the space around you. The air seems heavier then, almost like it is holding its breath, waiting for something unseen to unfold. There is a weight in that stillness, a weight that feels both unfamiliar and strangely comforting. You may feel it first as a small shiver along your spine, or as a slow tightening in your chest, as though your own thoughts are pressing against the silence. And yet there is a kind of invitation there, a gentle suggestion that perhaps not every thought, every feeling needs to find its voice. Sometimes they speak. They move through the world with their words, their judgments, their expectations, and at first it feels natural to respond. It feels natural to rise, to match their rhythm with your own. But then, in the soft, quiet moments between words, you notice something, your heart tightens, not in anger, not in fear, but in a subtle recognition. Every word that you respond to is a piece of yourself that drifts outward, leaving a small emptiness behind. Have you felt that emptiness before? That small, creeping hollow that whispers that perhaps your voice does not always need to be released into the air? There is a difference between silence that is fearful and silence that is chosen. Fear shrinks you, fear hides you, but silence that comes from the center of yourself has a different weight. It is like holding a small flame in your hands. It does not burn you. It does not ask for attention. It simply exists, and in its existence, it illuminates. You can feel it there, warm and steady, and the world around you seems to bend slightly to its presence. You may not notice anyone else bowing to it, but your own body remembers. You remember that strength does not always shout. Sometimes strength simply breathes quietly and does not move until it must. Imagine a moment when they are speaking again, and this time their words press closer to you. The kind of words that make your heart beat faster, that make your mind churn with the urge to answer, to correct, to defend. In that moment, your body wants to move, your voice wants to rise. But somewhere, deep inside, there is a pause, a small, almost invisible pause that stretches the space between impulse and action. And in that pause, you see something unexpected. You see the edges of your own mind, sharp and clear, like a calm lake reflecting the first light of morning. You see that reacting is not the same as living, and that sometimes letting the words pass like clouds overhead leaves your own sky clearer than before. There's a subtle pleasure in noticing this, not the kind of pleasure that is loud or urgent, but a quiet acknowledgement that your inner world is whole, even when the outer world demands more than it can give. You realize that the spaces between words, between moments, carry a kind of gravity that we rarely measure. These spaces are filled with something older than anger, older than fear, older than pride. They are filled with the quiet knowledge that your own presence is enough, that your breath is enough, that the simple act of holding still can carry a weight far greater than any shouted word. And in these moments of quiet, you begin to notice the patterns of your own heart, how it responds to sound, to judgment, to expectation, how it rises and falls with the tide of emotion, and how it can be trained, like a patient river, to flow around obstacles instead of crashing into them. You may not feel the power yet, but it is there. It hums softly beneath your ribs, in the way your thoughts settle after the storm, in the way your mind tastes the sweetness of nothing pressing against it. You are learning the language of silence, a language older than any argument, more enduring than any praise. Perhaps this is the first step towards something deeper. Perhaps it is the moment when you begin to understand that your inner world does not need to be proven to anyone. That your calm, your stillness, your quiet observation is not weakness, but a form of presence that holds its own authority. And when you sit in that quiet, when you let the world speak around you without disturbing your own inner rhythm, something begins to shift. The air feels softer, your body feels lighter, and your thoughts for the first time are not rushing to escape. They linger like the faint scent of a flower in a dark room, and in that lingering you feel your own weight, steady and unshakable. So listen. Quietly, rest in the pause. Notice the gentle pull of your own awareness. In that stillness, something begins to grow, not loud, not demanding, but steady and true. The silence itself becomes a companion, and with it, a quiet strength you never knew you had. You begin to understand that sometimes the world can speak, but it does not have to disturb the calm that lives within you. And in that understanding, the first light of something new rises, soft and slow, like a breath held and finally released into the quiet night. Sometimes they speak in ways that feel heavier than the air around you. Their words are not harsh, not always meant to wound, yet they press against your calm like a slow, unrelenting wind. You feel it first as a tightness in your chest, a small unrest that rises quietly, almost unnoticed, until it has filled the room within you. And you wonder, why do their words affect me so? Why does their judgment seem to weigh more than it should? Perhaps it is not their words alone, but the echo they awaken inside you, the part that longs to be seen, the part that hopes to be understood. There is a strange loneliness in this feeling. To be misunderstood is not merely to be wrong, but to feel invisible in a way that aches quietly. You speak, and yet the meaning slips through the spaces between ears and mind. You gesture, you explain, you try, and still the recognition you seek does not come. And in the silence that follows, you begin to feel something unfamiliar, the stirring of patience, the soft recognition that your own truth exists, whether or not it is acknowledged. Have you noticed this before? That your inner life can remain untouched, even when the outer RLD twists your words into shapes you did not intend. It is not easy to watch this happen. The heart resists quietly. The mind reaches for an answer, a correction, a way to make them see. And yet, in that resistance, something subtle occurs. The tension is there, yes, but it begins to teach you a form of attention you have never known. You begin to notice the spaces between the spoken words, the hesitation that hints at their fear or need, the small cracks in their certainty, and slowly, almost imperceptibly, you begin to see the patterns of their actions, not to judge, not to fight, but to understand the rhythm of their world, which moves differently from yours. This awareness can feel lonely at first. You realize that their understanding is not guaranteed, that their recognition may never arrive, and still you hold the quiet, the soft, patient center of yourself. There is a strange dignity in this holding, an unspoken strength that does not shout, that does not demand attention. Your heart begins to settle, not because the world has changed, but because you have begun to change. You are learning to navigate the currents of misunderstanding without losing the calm that is yours to keep. Notice how small this practice feels. A breath held instead of released, a word left unspoken, a thought folded carefully into the stillness of your own mind. And yet, in these small acts, there is a kind of power. It is not the power that moves mountains or wins arguments. It is a quieter power, the power of presence, of self-possession, of knowing that your worth does not rise or fall with the judgment of others. You feel it in your chest, not as heat or fire, but as a steady warmth that hums softly beneath your ribs, like a river flowing silently beneath the snow. Sometimes in the midst of being misunderstood, a strange clarity emerges. You see that their words, their opinions, their attempts to shape you do not define you. You are not the reflection they cast. You are not the weight of their expectations. You are the witness to your own life, the keeper of your own heart. And in this witnessing, a gentle liberation takes root. You notice the freedom in not reacting immediately, in not rushing to correct or explain. The stillness of your response becomes a mirror, reflecting not their confusion, but your own quiet strength. You may feel the urge to break this calm. It comes softly at first, a whisper, then a tremor. It is the longing to be seen, the wish for recognition, the human ache that insists on expression. And still, you watch it rise and fall like a wave on a dark shore, without needing to follow it to its end. You feel it, acknowledge it, and let it return to the silence from which it came. In doing so, you learn that restraint is not emptiness, that silence is not absence. They are full of subtle life, of understanding, of a quiet dignity that does not need applause. Perhaps the most tender lesson in this space is the realization that being misunderstood is not a flaw in you, but a mirror for patience and inner strength. You begin to notice the gentle expansion of your own mind, the soft widening of your heart as you hold your center in the presence of their turbulence. You see the contrast clearly, the storm of their words and the stillness of your soul, and in this seeing there is a growing sense of ease. The calm does not come from them changing, but from you learning to inhabit your own quiet fully, without surrender, without haste, without resentment. And so, in this delicate tension between their voice and your silence, you discover the contours of your own dignity. You feel it in the slow beat of your heart, in the soft settling of your breath, in the gentle weight of your own presence. It is not loud. It does not clamor for recognition. It simply is. And in the gentle noticing, the soft observation, you begin to understand that the world may never fully see you, and yet you are whole. The peace that grows in this understanding is subtle, profound, and enduring, like a candle flickering quietly in the night, steady against the shifting shadows around it. There comes a moment when the pull to speak, to defend, to explain grows almost unbearable. Their words circle around you, pressing close, and your body tightens as if it remembers every time it has given itself away too quickly. You feel the urge rising, sharp and insistent, like a small flame that wants to leap from your chest. And yet, in that moment, something deeper stirs, a quiet, almost imperceptible whisper from within, suggesting a different path. Have you felt it before, that still, gentle voice that asks nothing, yet seems to carry all the weight of wisdom? It is in this whisper that the first real choice appears. Not a choice that comes with fanfare or urgency, but a subtle turning of the mind, a small shifting of the heart. You can respond, of course. You can release the words that have been held too long and let them scatter like leaves in the wind. Or you can remain still. You can let the flame flicker quietly without sprea, ding without consuming. And as you pause, you notice something remarkable. The world does not collapse. The air does not turn brittle. Nothing fractures except the urgency that had been pressing on you so insistently. Choosing silence over reaction is not an act of surrender. It is not the quiet of defeat, but the quiet of presence. You begin to sense the space that opens when words are withheld, a space filled with observation and reflection, where you can see yourself more clearly than ever before. Your mind stretches gently, discovering corners of patience, of understanding, of endurance that had lain hidden beneath the constant need to answer. You feel the subtle power in knowing that you are not obligated to respond to every provocation, that the measure of your life is not in how quickly you can justify yourself, but in how gracefully you can inhabit your own stillness. There is a strange beauty in this restraint. It hums quietly beneath your awareness, like the soft rhythm of a stream under moonlight. Each breath you take carries a weight that is calm and steady, a gentle reminder that your presence is enough. You may wonder if they will notice, if they will understand, if your silence will be mistaken for weakness. Perhaps it will, perhaps it will not. And yet, the small flame inside you continues to glow, not for them, not for their recognition, but for the simple act of honoring your own center. It is in the act of choosing silence that you meet yourself fully. You feel the ebb and flow of your own emotions without letting them spill outward. You observe the tug of irritation, the pull of pride, the ache of longing, and you let each pass by like clouds in an endless sky. You do not chase them, you do not grasp them, you do not force them to bend to your will. You simply notice, and in that noticing, a calm authority arises. It is not loud, not demanding, not visible to the eyes of the world, but it is undeniable in the quiet chambers of your own heart. Sometimes in this quiet choosing, a subtle shift occurs in your perception of them. You may begin to see that their words are not attacks, but reflections of their own restlessness, their insistence, their judgment, their misunderstanding, all reveal a world moving at a different pace, caught in its own turbulence. And while you do not condone or excuse, you see without judgment, and in seeing without the need to answer, your own center grows stronger. The flame you carry steadies, not because the world bends to it, but because it rests in its own gravity. You may be surprised at the depth of the peace that follows restraint. It does not come suddenly, nor with a flourish. It rises quietly, like water seeping into dry earth, slowly softening every edge, filling every hollow with something gentle and sustaining. You feel a new rhythm in your body, a pulse that no longer races with every word spoken around you, but flows with the quiet certainty of self-possession. Your thoughts are clearer, your heart is lighter, and the world seems to move around you with less urgency, as if it has recognized, without needing to say, that you have found a still place inside yourself. And so, in this quiet choice, you begin to understand the tender courage of restraint. You notice the strength that comes from observing rather than reacting, from holding your own center even when the currents of misunderstanding press close. You feel the dignity of a life lived in quiet integrity, where every word does not need to be justified, every emotion does not need to be displayed, and every action does not need to be explained. The stillness itself becomes a form of wisdom, a soft authority that asks nothing and yet carries everything. It is here in this gentle, deliberate choosing that you realize how powerful silence can be, not the absence of speech, not the withholding of feeling, but the presence of understanding, of patience, of a heart that holds itself steady while the world swirls around it. The flame within you does not burn brighter because it seeks attention. It glows because it is nourished by your own calm, your own awareness, your own quiet courage. And in that glow, you sense the truth of something enduring. That inner strength, once discovered, requires no applause, no acknowledgement, no reaction at all. It simply is steady and whole as you continue to breathe, to observe, to choose peace above the clamor, and to carry yourself with the gentle power of one who has learned the quiet art of being. There is a quietness that comes after choosing to remain still, after allowing the world to speak while you hold your own center. It is not sudden, not dramatic, not filled with applause or recognition. It is softer than that. It settles slowly like the first light of dawn brushing across a still lake. You notice it first as a gentle release in your chest, a loosening of the tension that had been pressing against your ribs for so long. And in that release, there is a profound awareness of your own presence, a presence that does not demand, that does not company. And Pete, that simply is, in this stillness, you begin to feel the depth of your own patience. It is not a patience born of waiting, of enduring, or of suppressing. It is a patience that rises from understanding, from seeing the world as it is without needing it to bend to your expectations. You notice the soft strength of holding yourself steady, the quiet dignity of observing without interference, and the subtle power of letting things unfold without disturbance. Have you felt this before? The way your own calm can hold more weight than any argument, more weight than any noise pressed upon you from the outside? It is a weight carried not in force, but in quiet assurance. You may also begin to see that the world does not need to approve of your stillness to make it real. It does not need to acknowledge your calm, nor even to notice the gentle rhythm of your own breathing. What matters is not recognition, but the truth you carry inside yourself. And as this truth settles, so too does a peaceful confidence grow. It is not loud or brash. It does not boast. It does not need to. Its strength is quiet, steady, rooted in the knowledge that your own heart has found a home in its own calm. This peace teaches you something remarkable about life. You begin to feel that you are not carried by the storms of others, nor are you shaped by the judgments pressed against you. Instead, you are shaped from within, by the deliberate care of your own presence, by the gentle attention you give to your own thoughts and feelings, and by the quiet choices you make in moments that ask for more than you are willing to give. Each small act of restraint, each moment of observation, each breath held and released carefully, adds to a slow unfolding strength, a strength that is invisible to the eye, yet tangible to your own heart. In this quiet knowing, the world itself seems to soften. You notice the small motions of those around you with a gentleness that is unfamiliar yet comforting. You notice the rise and fall of their voices without needing to join the rhythm. You notice the pull of their expectations without being drawn into it. And in noticing, you discover the subtle art of being fully present for yourself, fully alive in your own space without needing to change or correct or respond to the currents pressing against you. There is a profound lightness in this, a sense that your inner life is your own, and it can remain untouched, serene, whole. Perhaps the most tender part of this realization is that peace does not require silence in the world, only in yourself. You may still hear the murmurs, the judgments, the insistence of others, yet you can remain unshaken. Your calm becomes a shelter, not from life, but within it. You find that strength is not in lifting yourself above the world, but in carrying your own heart steadily through it. And in this carrying, in this quiet cultivation of inner power, you feel a deep respect for yourself, a respect that does not seek to impress or prove, but simply to exist as truth. And so, the act of holding still, of choosing silence over reaction, begins to form something lasting. It is a gentle awareness of your own worth, independent of the chaos around you. It is a slow, enduring light that shines softly, not to illuminate others, but to warm your own chest, to settle the trembling of the mind, to remind you that you are enough. The lessons of restraint, patience, and quiet observation have become more than practices. They are companions. They walk with you, whispering that calm is not absence, that power is not noise, that dignity is not earned through confrontation, but discovered in the soft spaces of your own being. And when the day ends, when the world finally exhales and rests, you can feel the slow, steady pulse of your own life, undisturbed, unshaken, quietly magnificent in its simplicity. You sense the enduring weight of inner strength, the subtle glow of self-respect, the tender growth of peace that has taken root. There is no rush to prove anything, no need to speak louder or faster or more convincingly. Your presence alone carries its own authority, and in that presence, you are whole. In that presence, you are calm. In that presence, you have found the quiet power that makes every day a new beginning.